Hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about lightweight backpacking, shall we? So, I actually have my computer here. I'm gonna watch my full backpack load 2024 video as we go along, and then I'll comment about how each thing worked out. How, this is like the after video, right? So I mean, I see a lot of people put things out and say, oh, I'm going to use this and I'm going to use that. And especially when they're unboxing something, like what does unboxing something tell you about the product? Yeah, so this is the after. I did, I was going to look it up, but I forgot, but I think I did something like 35 days of backpacking. I did a lot. So pretty good test season for most of this gear, right? Okay, I went and put an orange shirt on purpose. So orange shirt present, blue shirt is going to be before. So before, after, right? All right, let's get started. Here's the new one. ULA Ohm 2. I got the Ultra. So Ultra is a little more expensive. It's kind of new material. It's a bit more waterproof, I think, is generally the idea. ULA Ohm 2, it's equivalent to, I believe it was 60 liters. So this thing is super, super light. Really light. It's got nice big pockets over here, but generally not a lot else. Went in here, little side stuff, right? And you just kind of roll it down like that, right? This thing is stupidly light. All right, the first thing is the backpack. So let me just say that I am putting timestamps below this video because it's going to be pretty long, and I know people like to go right down to exactly what they came to the video to look up, right? Let's try to get a little less headspace here. But, I mean, I don't have time to put out 20 videos about this. I have enough, I'm working on a batch of videos just to finally put something out for you guys that's like 27 videos or something. So, yeah, everything's coming out a bit late this year. So, the backpack. I think I liked it. The lightness just kills. It is just awesome in that sense. The bear spray holder, yeah, I think it worked pretty well. A lot of times I found myself having to turn the bear spray, otherwise it wouldn't be in the right direction for me to actually quick draw it if I did need to. I did tear it. I did tear one of the shoulder straps, but so I was kind of annoyed with that. It did survive another 7-8 days of me backpacking. I think I just picked it up a little too fast or something, or a little too harsh, a little too rough with it. Right? And then I went and fixed it for 20 bucks at Totem Outfitters here in Edmonton. So not a big deal. One thing about this is it doesn't fit super well. And like when you really load it up, you feel like you have a couple of soccer balls on your back, kind of pushing into it. Right? So not super comfortable in that sense, but everything is so light that you don't need it to be super comfortable. And of course, I'm comparing it to my old massive backpack that was really comfortable, but it was really heavy, right? I mean, it had all this padding and all these straps, and that was great, but it was heavy. What else? I wasn't a huge fan of these big pockets. It seemed like I had to be careful whenever I picked the backpack up, otherwise water bottles I had in there would fall out. Even with the tightening here, like you could tighten it up, it still somehow managed to, a lot of times stuff would fall out. So when you first pick it up, I tore a strap and these bottles would come out, and I mean, the thing's already half on your back and then the bottle falls out and now you have to take it off again, and that's annoying. So bottom line, you have to be careful when you put this thing on. But it seemed like it repels the water pretty decently. I mean, I did pay extra money for like the Ultra material, right? And I love using it for day hiking. I mean, it is just so light. It's just nothing on your back, right? I mean, I don't bring it out in the Kananaskis or anything, but when you're doing day hikes out in a backpack, it's excellent to have something this light and you don't need to worry about, obviously you don't need to worry about room. I did buy like that little inside compartment, this, and I did like that. That was for my wallet, my keys. Once I actually started to use the thing, I did enjoy that. I do miss having all the pockets from my old backpack. This one has some, but you know, I'll keep using this thing. I think it worked out pretty well. This thing is so light, it's insane. So it's the, let's see here. Oh, I just have Z-Pack tent. I'll flash up what it actually is. It's really, really helpful, right? So it's a tent that you hold up only with trekking poles. All right, so next is a duplex tent. It's a not recommend. You know what finally got me? I mean, it is difficult to set up, and it's just not as sturdy, right? A tent that goes up on your trekking poles is just not as sturdy. Now, what happens is that you don't sleep as well because you feel like a real good storm is just going to blow it over. Now, usually you sleep in cover, right? If you're in official campgrounds, and even when I look for random camping, I tend to try and find cover. And I never encountered a storm big enough to actually take the tent down. Like, I think they are pretty sturdy, but you don't feel like they're as sturdy as a normal tent. And so you just don't sleep as well. You're not as secure, right? But you know what got me is the condensation. And even at the end, I just could not seem to stop condensation. So I would wake up and there'd be a puddle of water from it be dripping all night. And I mean, you know, they say, oh, well, you know, you open up the flaps at each end. Well, if you're in the rain, it's obviously there's a lot of, condensation in the air. And guess what? You know, like if you open those flaps, the rain's going to come right into your tent. And so there's no solution at all to that. And I'm not real happy with it. I mean, it cost like $1,000 too. It cost a lot of money. It also got a bunch of tears in it. And I think that might have been my fault, but I'm not super sure. I did send it back to Z-Packs and they fixed it for free. Obviously, I had to pay to get it sent there and back, but still, they did fix it. So Z-Packs was all right in that sense. But yeah, and I mean, after I bought the tent, Stuart Howe from the How's the Hike channel, he put out a bad review about the Z-Pack duplex. And it was too late. I already had the tent. So, and now I'm also kind of not loving it, not putting out a great review. I'll keep using it. I mean, I spent a fortune on it, and having a bit of water in the tent is not a real big deal, right? As long as you're not being soaked. But that condensation, it sucks. Okay, this is, I actually don't have details. Why not? I'll go to the bottom. It's a quilt from Z-Packs again. It's supposed to be, I believe, minus 10, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It's insanely light. Again, very, very light, but again, the lightness cost. I'm quite eager to figure out how this thing works. Kind of cool. I have lots of new gear to play with, that's for damn sure. All right, next is the quilt. 10 Fahrenheit solo quilt. I was really hoping, because I bought one that was pretty low rating, that it would be able to last as long as my heavy sleeping bag, but it really didn't. So what happens, I mean, a quilt, you lie, you don't really have anything on your back. You lie on the whatever, thermal rest you have, and that worked fine. But whenever you move around, and I'm pretty restless sleeper, right? Whenever you move around, exactly what you think is going to happen happens. Little puffs of air come in, and it's cold, right? So that's not great. So yeah, if you're someone who just lies down on your back, gets your pillow and your feet, your knees propped up or whatever, and you're going to stay there all night, well, great. But I mean, when you're stiff, you've been out there 5-6 days, you got to move your body around. You got to roll around. And especially at my age, right? So yeah, by about early September, I started bringing my big sleeping bag with me. I started leaving the quilt at home. So it's basically a summer quilt. Yeah, I don't think shoulder season is going to work out too well. All right, just quickly with the rest of the sleep system. Nothing mind-blowing, right? The Thermarest was fine, still lasting, right? Those Thermarests are famous on the Pacific Crest Trail and stuff for durability, and it did fine for another season. The pillow is still fine, hasn't deflated on me, and the pump worked out fine. Okay, Raingear. I already made a video about this. I bought frog togs, right? Those are the pants. Here's the jacket. These weigh nothing. These weigh nothing. They were $40. Frog Togs Raingear. So they performed exactly the way I thought they would. And that is that, you know, they perform just fine as far as actual rain gear. So they are perfect rain gear for nice trails in like Banff National Park, right? Where it's like, you can almost drive a quad down these things because nothing is reaching out on the trail and trying to tug at you. Even that stuff isn't too bad. But if you have to bushwhack at all, if you have to go around trees, probably you're quickly going to get a hole in these things. And that's not a big deal, like one hole, okay, whatever. You patch it, you carry on. As soon as I had to do a major bushwhack, my pants were torn to shreds. That was it. I had to take them off and they were garbage. But that's kind of what I thought would happen, right? That I would probably buy another pair of these Frog Togs every year for $40, which isn't a big deal. When you add that up, it's probably actually cheaper than buying real rain gear, right? I mean, my expensive, you know, I said in this video here, my expensive rain pants, they still were torn to shreds eventually. So, and they were the same price as 3 Frog Tog pants. So, yeah. All right, I'm not gonna go through all this, right? I see that last video was 1 hour and 22 minutes. There's no need to have this one be 2 hours by running through every last little item. I mean, I'm just gonna go through the major stuff. Okay, water shoes, Crocs, whatever you want to bring out, right? These are gone. You know, when I went down to trail runners, I did find that my feet were wet, just nonstop. You know, they don't do anything for you. And the big boots, yeah, you have the big boots along. They're a lot more work, but it would take you could walk through wet foliage with them for like 2 days before finally the water got through. Then of course it would take 2 days for them to dry, really, right? Trail runners, if it rained the night before, your feet are wet before you leave camp, right? Just walking around, getting water, cooking for yourself, whatever. So your feet are wet a lot, and I've just kind of gotten used to that. I'm not going to give up the trail runners because of that. Basically, it means that these just don't get used anymore because my feet are already wet. If I really want to, I can just put on a pair of socks and cross if I want to keep my shoes dry. And then I have wet socks, but not wet shoes. And then, you know, the socks will provide a little bit of protection from sharp rocks and stuff. What I have found though is that there aren't sharp rocks in creeks and rivers. The water has ironed them out, nice and smooth. They're slippery. They're not sharp. All right, like sharp rocks in the water I find is actually kind of rare. The water shoes that I left behind. So all summer, I was crossing things with barefoot. So that's a harder, definitely, than just having shoes on of any kind whatsoever. I mean, most of the time what I found is most of the time when you're crossing with bare feet through the rivers, it's fine. The river or the stream or whatever, it does, you know, like round out the rocks and so they don't cut you. But still, it's harder to get a grip on slippery rocks because now you don't have any kind of hard surface on your feet, right? Now it's just your feet. So you definitely don't have, you know, it's yeah, you're putting up a level of difficulty. And then when you get to shore, now you have sharp rocks. And I mean, you can't just plunk your butt down right there, right beside the water and start putting on shoes and socks, that kind of thing. So now you have your bare feet and you're walking 2 or 3 steps over sharp rocks, trying to find somewhere to sit. And also now your feet are full of mud and junk, right? So it can be kind of a pain in the butt crossing with bare feet instead of bringing some kind of water shoes. I think I will keep going with it, but definitely it's kind of one of these, all right? So, here. It is so light. Oh. There you go. I look like a giant pumpkin, but I saved a massive amount of money, and it is just as warm. What else do I need? Right? It's not a fashion show. I know some people treat it like it is, but it isn't. Let's just say that I did love the new puffy jacket, the Ghost Whisperer, as I thought I would. It performed exactly the way I thought. It's very nice. I even find myself wearing my old jacket now on a day-to-day instead of having some big jacket just to go from the car to the whatever, you know. I'm right now I'm in Edmonton, so it'll be a little colder than Calgary, but yeah. This is my old water system, right? So you can see what a smart water bottle looks like after a whole year of use. Here's a comparison. And then I had the Nalgene. So I've decided to drop the Nalgene and just go with 2 smart water bottles. This is a common trick, I think, amongst the lightweight crowd. I've tried to get one that was different color because generally I like to have one water bottle with cooking water, so just water that I just take straight out and then boil, and then another one where I've treated it. So I wanted different colors for that, right? Getting rid of the Nalgene means that I've decided to drop a major item out of my food, which is my whey powder. Because you cannot put whey powder in those little, and that just doesn't work, right? You need a wide mouth to scoop whey powder in. Whey powder weighs a pretty decent amount. I'm dropping all this weight off my backpack, and I'm not increasing my mileage. So I'm still doing 12 to 15, maybe 20 kilometer days. And so I think with all that weight gone, I'll be able to do without the whey protein. And so that means I've been able to drop the Nalgene. All right, the leaving behind of the Nalgenes in favor of smart water bottles, mostly getting rid of whey powder out of my pack. I barely noticed. You know, you just don't work as hard without all that weight. I mean, I dropped 10 pounds of weight and it makes a big difference, right? And so without the whey powder, it was fine. So the Nalgenes being left behind, that was okay. That's another thing, you know, people don't think about the food that much. It seems like all the lightweight conversation is about your base weight. Well, your consumables is big, right? It is big. It will come with you on every backpack. And the fact that I got rid of whey powder, it made a difference. It made a big difference. Alrighty. So there's another new item. So this is the Toaks pot and stove. Stove is different than the Toaks, but I did a video about this little stove. So this is instead of the jet boil. Inside this thing, I will store like a little container of fuel. And from the jet boil, I have decided to keep this. And you know, it just adds nice stability. And sometimes I am not on a picnic table, right? In fact, most of the time I'm not on a picnic table, so you want this. All right, let's talk about the cooking system. So after I got the entire cooking system, I kind of found that Jetboil had a lightweight system that seemed to be honestly maybe an addition of about 20 grams. So it might have been actually pretty close to what I had and a lot less trouble. I mean, having that little stove and then balancing your water on it, and it's very hard to simmer. You have very little control, and it seems like it's always sputtering, and I don't know. It's not ideal, and it probably takes longer to boil water than it does on that lightweight Jetboil. I might try that for next year. I might try the lightweight Jetboil system. But you know, the system I had, I made it work. It was fine, and yeah. Okay, stuff sack. This thing's gone. I've decided to replace it. So, when I was buying my backpack, I decided to just get these guys. They're like, I don't know, maybe $2 a piece. They're basically backpack liners. I tried looking for these compression bags, these garbage compactor bags, and the only thing I could find was the extra strong garbage bags at the store, or you could order these garbage, bags online, like a box of like 60. It's like, so I bought like 2 or 3 of these things. Let's see how they work. Good enough. The backpack liners, they worked fine. They could be a bit of a pain because when you're trying to load up stuff, they just bunch up and then you gotta kind of work them back up and stuff. So you're kind of loading up 2 bags. Then of course, the backpack liners are that inside bag that sort of pushes its way in. But they worked fine. And I haven't even gone through one yet, right? The one that I used all season seems to be still just fine. And as far as I can tell, it did keep my dry stuff dry. So what else do you want? I know a lot of backpackers don't even bring a sunscreen with them, but I can't imagine anything worse than being lobster red face and now you're trying to deal with that. And you still don't have any of this, so what are you going to do now, right? It's very hard to find these little containers. I went looking around a dollar store and I managed to find like this for like $2. There's like 6 of these little things in here. And so what I'm gonna do is I only need some for like my face, right? So I'll just put some in a little thing like this and bring it with me. And again, this weighs almost nothing. So this really didn't weigh much either, but at least now I know exactly what I'm bringing with me. All right, I'll comment on the those little bottles I got for the sunblock. It mostly worked out. I mean, I did like that I could always see exactly what I had left. And, I could you just put the little bit in there and then it weighs like 1 gram. It weighs like nothing. It really is, a sunblock bottle the bottle is all the weight, right? One time a lid did come off. The sunscreen I had was kind of mushy. It wasn't running at all, so it was mostly okay. Did kind of get in the inside of my Ziploc bag, but as long as it has its own Ziploc bag, it's all right. All right, let me get rid of the distraction. Seems like that's basically it. Obviously, I didn't comment on everything, just the big stuff, and the rest of it just basically worked out. I mean, yeah. Let's just talk about the overall changes to being lightweight. So, I found myself definitely walking farther, pushing farther, and what happens with the mentality of backpacking is, you work just as hard. So, even though my back is okay now, like on these trips, because I wasn't carrying as much weight, I would keep pushing and pushing until like now my knees are bugging me. So it's almost like you just sort of push it to the next goalpost, right? And there's a few times when I did like 35-kilometer days. So that's a far cry from what I was able to do in like my first season. But there's a definite added level of safety there, a really, really nice, comforting level. And that is that when you get in trouble, you can go beast mode and walk a long ways, right? I did get in a bit of, it wasn't, there was potential. And yeah, I went beast mode and I hammered my way through a lot of stuff. I did a 19-kilometer day, which isn't that much, but I mean, I did it through really difficult trail. And, I was quite grateful for that. So, you have all that stuff in your back, you have all that weight, you were stuck to within, what, a 15, 20-kilometer radius? With this backpacking, I can, hey, if I don't mind walking at night a little bit, I can go like 30, 35 kilometers. I can really smash out a lot of kilometers on a good trail. And that is really, really nice. It is. And it gives you more options for your backpacks, right? And yeah, I mean, I don't think much of 20-kilometer days anymore. And 20 kilometers a day used to be like I pushed. That really took it out of me. So lightweight, I mean, I do recommend doing it. It takes a bit of adjustment. You're just not as sure of things, right? When you sleep, you're not as sure of your tent. And when you just don't have as much comfort in your brain, right? Because you're not carrying as much crap. And so your sleeping bag on that isn't as, yeah, but it's part of the experience, right? You get a little braver the more backpacking you do, and you get out there and you're okay with having this sort of stuff. So I think it went pretty well. Anyway, that's it I think that's all I really got to say about lightweight. I will continue to do it. Most of my gear is going to stay the same. And I mean, I paid too much money to really be turning anything over, right? I did pay a lot of money to lightweight backpack this year. And yeah, get out there and hike.